Good morning. Okay. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me. So today we're going to discuss a bit more about product and culture integration in the context of merger or acquisition. A little bit more about me. As you heard already, I've spent the last few years working in tech and in the mobility industry. We have a big challenge ahead to tackle climate change. And there are multiple innovations that have been started, continue to develop with this objective in mind. Therefore, I spent some time working for the ride-hailing industry for 4 years, micromobility as well, jump bikes. Today, Dott, we're going to talk about it, and for electric cars as well with Tesla. Currently, I work for Tier and Dott. In the last 9 months, we've spent time focusing on integrating these two platforms at a pretty large scale. I'd like to share with you today a little bit more about our journey and what you can take from it if today or tomorrow you consider integrating two platforms. So what do we do? Who are we? TIER Dott today operates one of the largest micromobility fleets in Europe and in the Middle East. What does that mean in practice? We operate more than 250,000 e-bikes and e-scooters, which you can find on the streets. I hope you've seen them already. We also completed close to 100 million rides last year. What did we decide? In 2024 and before, we were two separate companies. Similar activity, complementary geographic footprints, and a good cultural fit. In 2024, about a year ago, we decided to merge. What was the reason for that? Our key objective was that we believed we could take the best of both Tier Mobility and Dott into one product, one set of operations, in order to build a sustainable business in the long term. This is the difficult part. What was the question to the tech and product team? To do that, we needed to take both platforms and merge them into one. How? As you can see on the screen, there were multiple components that we needed to take into account. The first one, as you can see, we had two apps and users. They could decide to use us every day, every month, when traveling. On the second aspect, you would have vehicles. Vehicles are a key element of our experience. You use an app to move around. You are using our vehicles to move effectively. They need to stay connected, and we have a pretty big fleet to operate. Those vehicles would be quite different between the two platforms. On the third side of things, we were operating in different cities. We have agreements with cities. We operate according to certain standards with them. That also needed to be factored in. And finally, and not the least, we need to operate with very integrated and local teams in order to deliver the best level of service for our users. That involves maintenance, that involves moving vehicles around in each city we operate in. Operations. So, how would we answer this question? This was the biggest decision we had to make. Once we decided to merge, this specific decision would lead to a very large impact for our team, our users, and our future as well. We had two distinct routes on the platform level. The first platform was a platform that has pretty large scale, but was also more complex, a bit less agile, and required a certain amount of resources to be able for us to maintain it and operate. And here I mean costs, teams, skill sets. On the other side, we had a second platform, which was smaller, a bit less expensive to maintain, and way more agile. How did we assess this first decision? We looked at a few different elements. The first one, scale. Can this platform support our scale, users, team size, vehicles, cities, etc.? Or do we believe we can scale it up as well? The second element, product. 2 layers. First one, basic functionalities. Are we able to operate our core activities with the platform we will select? Baseline. Second, do we believe we can improve our product performance with this product or by developing it? Third, the team, very important. We merged 2 platforms. Both of those teams have worked 4 years, 5 years on different stacks, different programming languages, different rituals. Would our combined team be able to operate on the platform we select? Would they be able to learn the skill set or share the knowledge with others? How long would it take? Costs. Would we have a good understanding of how our cost would evolve in the combined environment? Would we have control over it? Would it be a linear growth, something different? And finally, the migration. What's the path to get there? How long does it take? What's our level of confidence to achieve our vision and execute on it? How do we get confidence about it? We made a decision to go with one platform, and then our next step was to share it with the team and explain the why, the direction. This is absolutely key, since you work in a transformation and you need everyone in the company to understand the direction and commit to it. So the way we approach it first was to set an ambitious goal. The first time we mentioned it, some people reacted, this is not realistic. Like the first impression was really strong. It was a very ambitious goal. But then as we progressed towards it, it becomes real. You can touch it, and there is nothing more powerful in terms of motivation and engagement to achieve something big. In our case, we had defined that we wanted to operate on one stack within 6 months. The second layer is also very important. You can't be ambitious if you don't give the conditions for your team to operate and achieve that. So we define it as the company priority. There is nothing else more important than completing the integration. You probably have seen integrations that last for years are not fully completed, and there is a very high cost to delaying these decisions. Having everyone focused on a single objective at the same time can be difficult. There will be trade-offs. We also operated at the same time, but it's very powerful. Get it done. Which is my last point. Every team should be able to understand how they contribute to this purpose. They should relate to it and really be motivated to get it done, see the finish line. I wanted to share with you a few learnings when I prepared this speech about what we learned at this specific step of the process. The first one is really how to build engagement and the importance of giving one direction. The second one is if you give a direction, your team will have a guiding principle to be autonomous in their decision-making. You won't be in the room for most decisions, and that's expected. So give your team, equip your team with the right principles to make their own decisions. They are the experts. They know the technical details, but they should know what we are optimizing for, aiming at, with which constraints. Focus. I've talked about this already. This is very powerful. It's like a very long sprint. Everyone focused on achieving one goal. And then the power of repeated communication. Repeat your why. Repeat it every week, every day, before you start a meeting, before you start a company all hands, so that everyone, when things are difficult and we lose sight of the objective, can relate to it again and fosters engagement. The next one is as important and follows the direction you set. A lot of mergers fail because we underestimate the impact of the human component of it. So our goal with, as managers and leaders was to make sure we really build one team, an integrated team. How did we do that? The first one was to define mixed organization. So make sure we have representation of both former companies in most of the team, right? Depending on the skill set. The second one, immediate collaboration. Giving a team a problem to solve pretty quick is the best way for them to connect, share knowledge, build trust, and just get moving. Cultural values, this is very important. You share the why, you share the what. You need to be very clear on what you expect in terms of the how we expect everyone to behave. And finally, accountability. You give your team autonomy, but this has to come with accountability. In our case, we really wanted to stay on track, not delay the integration. We knew it would come at a higher human and capital cost as well. And so having a lightweight governance to make sure everyone is clear on their responsibility, share progress, ask for help, so that we really stay on pace. What I learned on this one is probably the most powerful learning of the last year. It's really the human adventure, the collective power. You have a team of individuals, highly talented. You give them purpose and autonomy. They are becoming and they became the driving power to achieve this goal. Everyone in the team and at the team level, in product, tech, and outside, made this objective theirs. They knew how to contribute, and they were actively working together to get it done. Very exciting to wake up every day with an ambitious problem to solve. The second one is clarity. We'll discuss this. Transformations are a time of ambiguity, unknowns, and can lead to anxiety. So being able to give your team clarity on the direction, on their responsibilities, on how they can contribute, really helps remove part of this uncertainty that will be there for a few weeks or months while we transform the organization. The third one, accepting change and ambiguity. This is not easy for everyone, but there will be changes. There will be changes in the team. Some people will decide to leave, will not be fully committed right away. Some miscommunications will happen. We have very different context. We discussed about localization. You might have very different cultural representation, historical company culture that are different as well. There will be miscommunication. But then you can be clear with your team on the fact that the best way to address that is to assume the best intent. Talk, over-communicate, explain where you come from, give context. Someone cannot know where you come from if you are not explicit about it. Then there will be difficult decisions. What we learn on the way on multiple levels, whether it's strategy or smaller decision, is it's better to make a decision early on. If you're not fully confident about it, because there are unknowns and risk, it's really a matter of being explicit about what you know, what you don't know, if you can gain confidence. We don't ask everyone in each team to be knowledgeable about 2 companies and 2 stacks. It won't happen. But then what we can recognize is discuss as a group what we know, our level of confidence, how we plan to address it, and make an informed decision so that we move forward. And here again, I'm coming back to the pace. It's very important to keep things moving and unlock all of these unknown miscommunications when they happen. Which leads me to the last point, which is getting involved. You give autonomy, you give a direction, everyone is striving to achieve a goal within product, tech, business, operations. But there will be situations where, as a manager, you need to get involved. You should not let a situation be. This is a judgment call, but expect to get involved to support the team and move forward in some instances. Only 2 phrases on this one. This is the biggest one. How do we execute on the plan? We discussed platform selection, we discussed the purpose, we discussed the team. This is where things for us were really challenging. We had a pretty large scale. Whatever platform we decided to keep, we really needed to prepare for a large integration. Why? Because we needed to involve tech, product, and most of business teams, from central team, market team, to deliver on this change. And so there were a lot of things we didn't know before starting. You can prepare as much as you want, you can spend hours in meetings, you can read all the documentation you have already. There were still a certain number of unknowns. So how do you approach this, given what's at stake for the company? So our approach was focused on 2 main elements. The first one is validate our strategy early. How do we get a signal that we're on the right path? What are the most important questions we want to resolve right away? The second thing was iterating fast. We know there are things that won't be great in the beginning. Then how are we equipped to find them, fix them, or improve them? In our case, we had a very experimental approach, and that's one of the first learning. Given our scale, the beauty of it was that we had a sample of vehicle, a sample of users, a sample of markets, a sample of payment methods. Anything we could think of, we had a pretty large scale. And therefore, it was quite possible for us in this context to really define an approach that would help us represent some of the use cases or issues we wanted to understand, and then learn from it. So in short, we really adjusted and developed an experimental approach to get early the answers we needed. Think about a regular product launch experiment. This is what we did, focusing each time on one question and then move on. So it was very iterative, but the goal was always very clear. We want to understand if it's feasible to do this type of integration and migration. We want to understand if users behave this way after the migration. We want to understand if our operations perform in a certain way after the migration, etc., etc. What we learned: experiment, we discussed about it. A key element as well was alignment between business and tech. This is not pressing a button, I think you got it. This is really a combined effort between multiple teams enabled by tech. And so for us, having a governance representative of tech, but also heavily integrated with business teams to make aligned decisions on what we knew, what we didn't know, and how we would approach it as a team was very powerful. The last one is very important. I think we've heard of it earlier today, is gating. If you focus on one objective for a milestone of your project, it's very important to be clear on what you are aiming for, how will you measure success, but also what is the point where you stop? What is the lower limit where you say, this is a no-go, we stop and we review our approach? And so having clearly defined thresholds and regular conversation about leadership and business about this help you really make quick decisions, whether to move forward or to stop and fix. And finally, staying course. Things will get tough. Very important to keep your vision in mind, keep your plan, enable your team to move forward. There were a few things I wanted to share about the right mindset. I'm going to go quick. The first one was we knew we would discover unexpected things, so we set up the team and the mindset of anyone involved in the project about it. We will discover new things. That's fine. Let's find them. And so we included that in our approach. The first one was the rollout plan. I discussed that already, with what do we represent, when. The second one was testing, testing, testing. Go, no go before every market launch. Before the launch, after the launch. We need to know what's happening for users, for operations, for vehicles. And the last one, fix immediately. There will be things you discover, it's a no-go. Even if it's 1 hour before the launch, this is not acceptable for users. We delay by 4 hours, 6 hours, 1 day. So, and everyone stops, we fix it. This worked pretty well for us. The next one, constraints. When you give big problems to your team, you will have the perfect solution that you want to do for your users, for the cities, or that you believe is technically the best. In the context of a merger, you will have constraints at the team level, at the time level, at the resources you might have. And so briefing the team to find creative solutions in a shorter time frame can be very powerful. In our case, just to give an example, if we wanted to give the perfect solution for our users to migrate from one app to another, this was about 3-4 months of work for multiple teams. It was not realistically possible for us given the timelines that we wanted to deliver on. What would we do? Then we briefed the team. They really focused on this one topic, and within a matter of 4 or 5 weeks, really identified an innovative solution in order to allow users to migrate most of their data in a few clicks. That was very well received by users. We saw a positive uplift in the metrics we wanted to move, but yet we were able to deliver on the timeline. To conclude, I won't go over the previous points again, but I think it's really about being bold. An integration can be seen as a task or can be seen as an opportunity to build something new. Take the best of both worlds. You have a talented team, you can give them a direction, give them autonomy, and you're going to be very surprised by what they are going to be able to achieve. Thank you.